hope you had a glorious day today, although I don't know how you could have if you've been paying attention to the direction in which this country is going headlong, as we used to say, in a complete rush to get to fascism. It is really scary to me. Last night on MSNBC, you may have watched when Rachel Maddow got even deeper. You know, she has written a book about this stuff, about the return of fascism to this country, but she got even deeper into what is happening now, and she cited, as so many commentators have recently, Trump's remarks during that Veterans Day speech in New Hampshire, of all places. Well, anyway, that was a speech in which he called his opponents vermin. Now, Trump is using the Hitler playbook now with absolutely no restrictions. And I think part of this is due to the fact that he has as one of his closest advisors, Stephen Miller, who he is the one who designed the plan to put children of immigrants into cages. Stephen Miller is a sick fuck. He happens to be a Jew, but I think the Jewish community has exiled this son of a bitch, because what Stephen Miller is doing, first of all, he's putting words in Trump's mouth. Trump is incapable of any reference to history or any capability of putting together a coherent sentence, much less a paragraph, no matter how vicious and vile that sentence or paragraph might be. That takes somebody who is has maybe 20 or 50 or 70 more IQ points than Trump, and that would be Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller is a real threat. He's the one whose head looks like a cue ball. You've probably seen him. He has remained off camera, out of the news, very quiet. He's kind of like Himmler was to Hitler, and Stephen Miller is a real danger. Now, the fact that he is a Jew who has completely crapped all over the Jewish heritage, the Jewish faith, the Jewish religion, is going without anybody talking about it. I don't understand why Jewish leaders in this country do not come out as a group and denounce this son of a bitch. I really don't. But then I don't know why Republicans or Christian fascists in the House, why they have not come out and condemned the same son of a bitch. Well, not just Stephen Miller, but Donald Trump. Anyway. Let me go back over what a bit here of what Trump said on Saturday. And this is not getting the attention. Yes, it's coming from Rachel Maddow. Yes, it's coming from MSNBC. Yes, a few comments at the Washington Post and the New York Times, and a bit of coverage from CNN. But this is a guy who is going to absolutely destroy democracy, destroy any further attempts by the American people to attain what our framers put together in the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, all of our sacrosanct documents. Trump is going to burn this country down. And it just seems like the political class in this country is just carrying on as though, well, he's crazy, this will never happen. The first part of that is provably true. Trump is a madman. But this can very easily happen. I'll explain why in a second. Well, I mean, I'll give you something extra to worry about. But this is I'm going to share with you among what he said, among the words and sentences that he used. I'm going to repeat it. And this is a statement that comes directly from Stephen Miller's pen, trust me, or his fingertips as he types his shit out on a computer. Quote, "We pledge to you that we will root out the communist, Marxist, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country, that lie and steal and cheat on elections. They'll do anything, whether legally or illegally, to destroy America and to destroy the American dream, end quote. Now, those are not Trump's words. I mean, they're coming out of his mouth. But this is shit written by Stephen Miller. Please believe me on this. Please, okay? And then this filthy bastard went on, both of them, Miller and his, in this case, hand puppet Trump. And remember, this is Veterans Day when these words were spoken. Trump went on that, quote, the threat from outside forces is far less sinister, dangerous, and grave than the threat from within. Our threat is from within, because if you have a capable, competent, smart, tough leader, Russia, China, North Korea, they're not going to want to play with us, end quote. Those are Stephen Miller's words. And they may have a little bit of flavoring added in, you might say, by Steve Bannon, this dumpster-dwelling son of a bitch who is hand in glove with Stephen Miller to overthrow this country. Now, the reaction from the Republican Party when Trump made these filthy Nazi comments on Saturday? Nothing. Nothing. Silence. And don't forget the meme, the phrase, the reality from the 1980s that our gay brothers and sisters put out there for us. Silence equals death. Comments or a reaction from the Democratic Party? Almost nothing. The situation is this. Trump's insanity, his filth, his deranged mind, his Nazism has been normalized to the point now when he makes statements like he did last Saturday. Media reports on it as if Trump had said, well, when I'm elected, I'm going to cut taxes. It's just crazy the way this force for fascism in this country that has always had a fertile field to grow in. I mean, think Henry Ford. Think so many leaders in the 1920s and 30s. Lindbergh, Charles Lindbergh, the DuPont family. I mean, it just went on and on. These are people who were not just Nazi sympathizers. They were Nazi allies and who wanted this country, along with Britain and Germany, to form an alliance that would dominate the world, punish the hell out of non-white races, and move the entire Western so-called alliance, such as it was back then, into a fascist state. And it's still here. That movement is still here. It wasn't killed. It wasn't burned at the stake. It wasn't destroyed with nuclear weapons. It is still here. Trump's craziness. Robert Reich pointed this out in his column today. He says Trump's craziness has been normalized to our peril. And then on Friday, these maggots, these Christian devils in the U.S. House turned their fury on the judge presiding over Trump's civil fraud trial and that judge's law clerk. Now, you know about this. I mean, we again, this is stuff that news media touches on and moves on. But this female Nazi, Elise Stefanik, who is the third-ranking member of the Christian fascist leadership in the U.S. House, she filed an ethics complaint against the judge, Arthur Engoron, claiming that the judge and the law clerk who sits next to him are biased against Trump and are calling on this judge to resign. Does that make sense to you? Purely rhetorical question. I know damn good and well it doesn't make sense to you. It doesn't make sense to anybody with any kind of goddamn common sense. But this is what the Christian Fascist Party is doing. Now remember, there is no Republican Party any longer. These are all Christian fascists. Period. And the Jews should know. I mean, oh my God, in their history, what other group has tortured, murdered, executed, burned alive, hanged, killed more Jews than any other group? The Christians. That's right. But what is going on with Trump and his scum? This is the latest chapter in this Trump Nazi playbook of character assassination and intimidation. This is exactly what Hitler did in his rise to power. Chapter and verse, it is exactly the same thing. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.